Welcome back to the Rambling Men Sports Podcast. James could not be here this week. He canceled on me at the last second again. But I have my good buddy Andrew back on the show. Been a while since I've had you on. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing fine. Just living the dream.
So I brought you on because the topics we're going to talk about this week, uh, we have mutual interests in them. Starting things off with our boy Dana Holgorsen going to Houston. Um, I don't want to say I'm bummed. I want to get obviously your opinion on this too, but I'm not bummed. But I'm just like this is. I'm just like this is a terrible look. Just a group of five comes in and poaches your coach. Like that's so West. That's so West Virginia.
I can't recall seeing that. I mean, I've seen some coaches. If that like the only comparison I guess I could make it to was when Tommy Tuberville left to go to Cincinnati. But I don't know. That was in the middle of the season too, so I can't really explain that one. I can. It makes more sense the more I think about it. I can see why he left, and I don't blame him. But it is weird to see a team. I mean, they should be in the Power Five, but I do personally think they'd be in the Big 12 if that Texas didn't exist. But that's neither here nor there.
Mm-hmm.
It like you said, I just don't think it's a great look for your program when a team that finishes, excuse me, a school that finishes 55 to 60th in revenue comes and steals a team that's top 30 in revenues, coach like that off the street.
No, that's my biggest problem with this. Is just it's a horrible look. Now, granted, I will say this: everything having to do with this had nothing to do with like Holgorsen didn't leave Houston because it was a better area. He didn't leave for Houston because it was better recruiting. Didn't leave because it was an easier path to the New Year's Six. He left solely really because of money.
Yep.
And not because WVU couldn't pay it because we didn't really want to. And I understand both sides to the argument.
I agree. That's been my because as like you said, I'm pretty bummed myself. Holgorsen left because I did. I love.
I lived with you. We both were Holgorsen fans.
I even remember when we lived together was his bad year. It was his little buy year, basically your free pass year, and we even all discussed it. And even poor old Chaz, man, he was back there. It was like, well, what if Huggins sucks? And we just happened to turn around both programs at the same year, the next year. But I thought he had done the best he could do for our program. It sucks because I wasn't thinking a national championship this year, but I was thinking Dallas at least. And so I understand at the beginning of the December, we were talking extension with them and things like that. But when you drop your last two games by a total of 9 points, then you get just lay an egg in the bowl game. Even though I understand no one want to be there, but still not an excuse. Like I just think the writing was on the wall. When that information came out after the bowl game, I said, okay, well, if they can offer him, I didn't think he'd actually leave us for Houston unless the money was right. And then when I realized the figures and they said that's what they were going to offer him, I figured he was as good as gone.
It's not like it was a basic contract. It's a record-breaking contract for a group of five head coach.
He's going to – I was talking to a guy at the gym today. I think if he stays in Houston as long as he wants, he'll end up being there as long as, like, Bobby Bowden or somebody was at Florida State. Like, I think Houston is going to try to – because he's relatively young for a head football coach. I think if Houston's going to try to make a lifer out of him unless he gets a bigger – like, unless Texas Tech or Texas comes calling in a few years, I don't see him ever leaving Houston until he retires. For all we know, he could have them a perennial 10-win G5 team every year going into a Fiesta or Sugar Bowl or somebody and beating somebody. Who knows?
I could definitely see that. I mean, he was able to win 7-8 games here. I think he could easily do that or win 10 games a year at the group of five level.
And he's going to go poach all of Texas Tech, Baylor's, all those recruits that and say, hey, Texas wants you. He's going to do the same thing that Art Briles and all these guys did whenever Texas wouldn't give some of these players a shot. He's going to make ballers out of them. I think the future is bright for Holgorsen. And with Shane Lyons as our AD, I'm not really necessarily worried about our next hire. I think he'll hire somebody that'll help keep our program top 4 or 5 in the Big 12 for the next.
I'll get into the candidates later, but the figures for his contract from what I read today, it was 5 years, $20 million. We could have easily offered that, but It was, I think, 11.5 was 100% guaranteed, and then the back half of his contract was 60% guaranteed, about 8.5. So 60% of 8.5. I don't know how much that is, but. But if he gets Houston to a New Year's Six bowl, then that becomes, I think, like 80% guaranteed. So it's more money. I think I did the math. It's around $19 million if he gets Houston to a New Year's Six bowl. About 19 of that 20 million is guaranteed, and that was the problem with West Virginia was Lions didn't want to give him that much guaranteed money because he only churned out 7-8 wins every year.
And that's the thing, like you said, I was listening to the Smoking Musket podcast when I was cleaning around the house and stuff and cooking dinner or cooking lunch today because it was my day off, so I was just kind of chilling. And I thought it was interesting because, a lot of times in college football, when it comes to coaching, most guys don't last at a program as long as Holgorsen has. Mm-hmm. If you last that long, you're either really, really good or your name's Bill Snyder.
Yeah.
And I think it got stale, and sometimes you have that. Holgorsen I don't think his job was ever truly, truly in jeopardy because he was on the hot seat going into 2016. He won 10 games. Last year we had some injury issues, so then this year, but the problem is that's the most talented team we've had since the 07 team, and it's not like it'd been different if like Oklahoma State, Oklahoma. And even Iowa State didn't even annihilate us as bad as they dominated that game. But
they dominated the game, but then the final score was 30-14.
Or you look at it, it's like
two possessions. That was it.
Yeah, and so but then the Oklahoma game, and now I don't think that was on Holgorsen. When your quarterback gives up 14 points on his own from fumbling, you can't really do anything as a coach about that. But like you said. He wanted all this guaranteed money and more years on his contract, and I don't blame him. I think he personally loved being here, and he would have liked to stay here as long as he wanted.
The vibe, from what I read, every WVU insider was saying he wants to stay.
Yeah, and I was watching his press conference today for Houston. He does seem excited and happy to be there in Houston. Contrary to what his son might think, I think a lot of
I laughed at that tweet by his son. I was like, majority of the fan base with a brain like us wanted him to stay.
Yeah. Obviously, I've learned I'm 25, as a life Mountaineer fan. I mean, I remember the late Nealon days and the early Rodriguez days, People didn't like Rodriguez just because he was some young coordinator. But the thing is I think our old fan base wants the reincarnation of Bill Stewart and Don Nealon to be our head coach. And I'm sorry, but this ain't Pop Warner. This ain't middle school, high school football. This is college football. If you want to be successful, you got to do what you got to do to win. And I'm not saying cheat, but this idea that, and like you said, you'll get into our coaching search. I think Holgorsen should have been treated a little bit better from the older fan base than what he got. They just didn't like him because he wasn't from here. And I'll always resent that because, who cares? Don Nealon. I
tweeted this, and you liked it and maybe even retweeted it. I know Carter liked it. Chaz liked it. I said, we don't need all these fans think we need a West Virginia boy, so he'll never leave. No, we don't. Don Nealon wasn't. Dana Holgorsen wasn't. We still won games.
Do you think Alabama cares that Nick Saban's from West Virginia?
No, exactly. They don't care. But they're also Alabama. They're the top football program in the country.
That's an admirable thing to think, and I understand that. But it's not going to win you games. We did and nothing against the players because at the end of the day, they're the most important part because they're the ones that put on the uniforms and play. Pat White's the greatest Mountaineer to ever put on the uniform, but he got up there and said, "I think I speak for everybody when I say Bill Stewart needs to be our next head coach." And in the moment, it sounded great, and then we realized
I said that. I remember watching that, and I'm like, "Why are you saying that?" Yeah, I was 14 years old. I'm like, "Why are you saying that, man?"
I genuinely remember going into that summer. I'm thinking we're supposed to have a really good team in 08, and then I would listen to Bill Stewart's interviews, and I'm like, God, I hope this dude knows what he's doing because he just came off as I'm not a head coach, much less a Division I Power 5 head coach.
Yeah. Look, and I don't want to speak ill of Bill Stewart, but that's the other. That's the
good man, great West Virginian.
Yes, I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but another thing why the older fans didn't like him is because they ran off Bill Stewart, who was the West Virginia boy, loved the state, would never leave. He was underperforming.
Dude, you watched it. It was rough. It's not like we never got annihilated by anybody in the Big East when Stewart was there. But we should have went undefeated both 08 and 09 when Bill Stewart was the head coach.
Definitely 2010. That was the best. That's the best defense I've seen for WVU.
I just don't understand the Syracuse loss. I don't understand the Russell Wilson bowl game annihilation. There's a lot. The only loss I think we probably deserved to lose was at LSU, and we were still in that game.
Yeah.
That's the year before LSU had that amazing once-in-a-century type defense or whatever.
Yeah, but back to Holgorsen. My boss actually was on I don't know exactly the podcast, but it's somewhere in Morgantown. And he gave a perfect analogy, I think, with Holgorsen, where it's kind of like where you're dating a girl and you like her, you don't love her, you kind of want to break up with her, you don't really know how, and then one day she just comes up and says, I've met someone new, I think we should end things. And you're kind of like, oh, no, that's so bad.
Then you don't know what you're going to do with yourself. Yeah. But, that's how I feel with Holgorsen. I really liked him. I hate that he's leaving. I'm going to tune into Houston games next year when I can. I'm going to root outside of West Virginia. I genuinely want Holgorsen to be successful. I'll never be upset with him. Some people were comparing it to Rodriguez leaving, and they're just ignorant, I think.
Do people forget he abandoned us right after our horrific loss to Pitt? The next week, he was gone.
And I just think people don't understand that. The problem with West Virginia, we're great people, and a lot of West Virginians are West Virginia fans. I'm not including Marshall fans because they have their own pocket of fans. But it kills me, the ignorance, whenever I hear, if you want to lose some brain cells, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful of this, listen to the call-in show with Wolfie and all them after every loss the past 3 or 4 years. It's nothing but dumbasses, excuse my French, coming in there.
We should have stayed in the Big East. We should have hired Doc Holliday.
Yeah, hire Doc Holliday. I remember, and it's always been like that. I remember I was at the Pitt game in 2007, and Jarrett Brown came in for Pat White. He wasn't doing that bad. We were just getting dominated as a team. This old dude next to me was hell-bent on putting Adam Bednarik in the game because he thought Adam Bednarik was going to come back and lead us to victory. And I just think that logic,
Lord have mercy.
That's what kills me. Is we have so many fans that root and pay attention to Mountaineer football as if it's their AA high school down the road, and it don't work that way. It's not, this isn't Pop Warner where you could just throw any Jim Bob Cooter or whoever in there and
who, by the way, that sounds like a West Virginia coach.
Could you imagine if we hired him?
We will never hire him, but
that'd be the most Mountaineer though coach, Jim Bob Cooter, head coach of Virginia football.
That's a great point that you made about losing brain cells. I love the state of West Virginia, but
Me too.
I was at the game last year against Oklahoma State when Greer threw 4 picks and just had a horrible game all around. His worst game by far as a Mountaineer. And I don't know if this kid was from West Virginia, but I was standing in the student section with Chaz, and a few rows over, this kid starts yelling, "Put in Jake Allison! Put in Jake Allison!" And I'm like, dude, not only is his name Jack Allison, but the dude's ineligible. He can't play.
And that's the thing is, I understand. I pay attention to Mountaineer sports for entertainment. At the end of the day, we win or lose, it's not going to affect my life, and that's okay.
Win or lose, we still booze.
It kills me, as a fan, to hear just the casual fan, give us a bad rap, which at the end of the day, you have this at every major program. You have those pocket of fans. I'm sure there's Alabama fans that thought Saban should have been fired after every national championship game they've lost. Sure, it might not be a whole lot
just
of them.
Just one.
But, I thought they lost 2, but I know they lost to Clemson. But, okay.
They lost in the playoff, yeah.
If every Oklahoma Sugar Bowl, things like that, there's fans, you have that with every fan base. It comes with it. But I feel like the most vocal ones are also the most come off as assholes and oh, this is how I feel and that's how it should be. I had my boss yesterday was saying Holgorsen was never a Mountaineer, and he wasn't really talking about Holgorsen, but he was just like, he wasn't a Mountaineer, and I'm just thinking like, and I didn't say it because I'm bottom of the totem pole, but I'm thinking like that logic is why we'll never win a national championship. Like if I love Tony Gibson, if they gave him a shot, I would not be upset with it if he could.
I would.
If he could bring in the right people around him. But the thing is, I don't think Shane Lyons is going to do that. I genuinely think he's smart enough. He's going to make this next hire. I will say the next hire we have, I'm going to give him 5 years at WVU before somebody else poaches him from us. I feel like the next 20 years of Mountaineer football is going to be like that, and that's okay. I just feel like as long as a guy like Shane Lyons or somebody's here as our AD, Mountaineer football is not going to suck, I don't think, but it's going to be different in regards to – I don't think we'll have in the next 20 years a coach that's here for 20 years. I don't think so. I think it'll be a 5-year thing. Every 5 years, new coach, new coach, new coach. You get that at a lot of other schools too, but, that's just how I feel.
We'll see. But you mentioned we'll finally move on to who we think the new guy at West Virginia is going to be. And you mentioned Tony Gibson, but WVU also eyeing Neil Brown, the head coach from Troy, and Luke Fickell, the head coach at Cincinnati. Everything I've read says it's going to be one of those two. And then Gibson as a distant third.
Yeah.
He's going to get his interview, and that's what worried me about this at first. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't trust Shane Lyons to hire someone, and he's been okay so far, but yeah. I was worried he was going to bring in Gibson to just make the players happy. Then they were going to – I was so worried.
I think, though, that one factor into Holgorsen leaving and one factor into Shane Lyons not giving him his extension, which it was the smallest one because obviously there's evidence to show against Holgorsen's case to give me an extension, was the fact that Shane Lyons didn't hire him. A lot of ADs want their guy. They want to bring in their guy. You see it at a lot of schools. The new AD comes in. People's on a short lease. And I do think, he wasn't going to handcuff WVU like Auburn's handcuffed Gus Malzahn.
I was going to mention that. That's a job where it's like West Virginia, the relationship is getting a little stale. They're kind of tired of him. I know a lot of Auburn fans are all kind of tired of Malzahn, but they can't get rid of him because of the buyout.
I don't necessarily believe for sure that Shane Lyons has to hire like a home run off the bat that's going to win us 10 games by year 2. But I do think he has to. His job relies on this hire because if he hires a bad football coach and we're 4-8, 3, if we miss, hypothetically speaking, I don't think this would happen. But if we were to hire a coach and not make a bowl game for 3 years, there's no way Shane Lyons keeps his job because there's no way they're going to let him hire Huggins' successor if he fumbles the football hire. I mean, that's just the way I look.
This is, ADs are like, the GM that trades up for a quarterback in the NFL. You better be right or you're gone. That's the way it is.
Will be. I'm not saying our next football coach needs to win a national championship.
No, I'm not saying that.
I hope there are fans that think that. I just hope. All I ask for is for us to bring in a coach that keeps the program as stable as it is now in regards to a consistent 7 to 9 wins every year for at least the next 5 years. I'm not saying go win 7 and 9 wins next year because it's a first thing, but I would like our next hire to make sure we get in a bowl game next year. Everybody thinks we're going to suck next year, and I just look at the roster and I'm thinking that's at least a 6-6 roster, personally. Yeah. I look at the schedule and the roster, and I'm like, I think that's a 6-win team, personally. I don't see why I wouldn't. I know we lose a lot of leadership on offense and defense, but we got a lot of recruits coming in that are sticking with us, and then we still have a good running backfield next year. I think it's okay receiving core and solid defensive backs coming back. Kenny Robinson's going to be back. People like that. I think, I'm not going to say the future is bright next year, but I don't think it's as bad as everybody's making it out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm kind of like, one of the guys I work with said, I have a hard time seeing this team be any good next season. I was like, well, define good. Are they going to win 9 games like they could have this year? No. But they can still make a bowl game. And to me, that's what I consider a good team.
And the thing is, what kills me, and this is another shot at our fan base, and I don't care. The Jack Allison thing makes me mad because I don't think he's bad, and
No, I don't either. He showed something in that ball game. He wasn't great. He wasn't good. He wasn't terrible.
Why Alabama, Tennessee, Miami all offered him a scholarship to come play football as a quarterback. Okay, it's frustrating because if you think about it, the dude hadn't played in meaningful snaps since high school. He was a class of 2016, so he hasn't played football since 2014 outside of practice, spring games, and then his reps he got in during garbage time. But you're going to tell him to go in here in a bowl game, start his first ever college football game against a top 20 team that was pretty good this year for Syracuse's standpoint. I don't think he played bad. I thought the second half he played great.
Yeah, he was a lot better in the second half once he settled in.
And he was 10 times better than Chugginoff, and then people saying
Chugginoff was bad.
Texas, because I'll be honest, man, nothing against Chugginoff, but when I watched the Texas game last year, and I was at that game, and when I watched the Utah game, I have never seen, even during the Jeff Mullen, Bill Stewart years, such an awful offensive performance from a quarterback. Like, I had never seen that. I had never seen a quarterback play as bad for WVU as those two games with Chugs. And people was comparing Allison to Chugs. I'm like,
no.
This is why we can't have nice things.
No, like Chugs looked just awful. And there was nothing out of him. Like, he just looked scared all the time. Allison didn't look scared. Like, he was a little rattled, I think, in that first half. But then the second half, he has some zip on the ball. Chugs really didn't. He did a little bit, but you had to have certain circumstances.
Yes. And I feel like everybody was upset Allison wasn't targeting Sills a lot, and I don't think people understand the chemistry between a quarterback and
I was thinking the exact same thing. They had 2 weeks to prepare together.
We had 2 weeks to prepare, and everybody's like, why are they throwing at all these second or third string guys? Because who's he been throwing it to all year in practice and summer? The second and third string guys. It's how it works in football. I feel like
we finally got to see T.J. Simmons a little bit because he practiced with him.
Most of these fans with these comments after games have never played football, I'm convinced. Yes. I don't think they ever went through a two-a-days. I don't think they ever practiced with the team. I don't think they ever did anything other than play pigskin out in the yard with their cousins or something like that. Because I think there are people, I'm genuinely convinced, in Mountaineer Nation that would like for us to run the I formation every game and punt and win and try to win games 10-7 like it's the Big East of the 90s again, and they would be content with that. I don't get it. I don't understand. I thought Holgorsen, when we made the hire when I was in high school, I thought it was a home run at the time.
Yeah, I did too.
Because we were still in the Big East and we weren't guaranteed to go anywhere at the time. And I mean, I understand Oliver Luck kind of fumbled it with the whole coach in waiting, and then we found out Stewart was trying to dig up stuff on Holgorsen and all that. So that was a shit show in hindsight. But I think I'm going to miss Holgorsen. I will. It's weird because the Rich Rod thing was easier to get used to.
I saw you retweet, and it was great. It said, our coach just left for a Group of 5 program, and somehow this is the most normal coaching transition we've ever had.
Yeah, because the Bill Stewart Holgorsen thing was a fumble as much as the Rich Rod thing. At the end of the day, Holgorsen is second wins of all time, and he's put 2 less guys in the draft, and he's been here to 8 years compared to Don Nehlen's 20 years at WVU. So, and people can say what they want about, and I think the biggest resentment I have towards Mountaineer Nation in regards to talking smack about Holgorsen. If you want to come at him saying he don't win big games, that's fine. That's fine. But I've never ever understood this fetish of he hasn't recruited a high school quarterback and developed him. Who cares? He brought in some good transfer quarterbacks. Why does that matter? I've never understood why somebody's got
might as well be a recruit.
Why does he have to recruit because guys like Cam Newton won a Heisman. He wasn't recruited by Auburn from high school. Like, who cares? If you can bring guys into your program to help you win games.
You know why they say that? Because they want a dude like Pat White who will be with the program 4 straight years.
Yeah. And you know what? Tough luck. Sometimes it don't happen, okay? Eventually, Holgorsen might have got a high school quarterback, but now we won't know because he's going to go to Houston. And you know what? What are they going to do at Houston if he just brings in transfer quarterbacks there and is even better because he's playing weaker competition? People going to give him shit? No, they're going to be like, maybe Holgorsen was right with that whole transfer quarterback thing. Because now I genuinely believe transfers are kind of the move. I have this theory that I think transfers are going to become the norm over necessarily just freshman high school quarterback starting. Because now with this whole, which it's always been, grad transfers can play immediately. But now with this, this kind of like you can play 4 games and then transfer, and you see quarterbacks, running backs, receivers. Look at Justin Fields at Georgia. I bet you they would have liked to have put him in the other night, but then they realized his ass is gone anyway, so they didn't.
I thought they did.
I can't remember because I turned it off after it was 20-7. Okay. I kind of got ready for bed early.
I saw him on the TV, and I thought it looked like he had jogged back to the sideline. But anyway,
Georgia was so flat, I didn't feel like they were going to come back and win anyway. So,
and this is kind of a good segue, but gut reaction: who's the next coach?
Neil Brown.
I think so too. That's the vibe I'm getting.
Luke Fickell's a good coach, but I think Neil Brown's a better coach if I look at their resumes. The dude almost beat Clemson at Clemson the year they won the national championship, and I remember watching that game. At the time, I didn't think that guy would be our next head coach, but
yeah,
he's too.
Funny how things work.
I remember when they beat LSU at LSU last year.
Yep.
He had Troy top 20 in defense, and so if that's the case, I hope he brings his defensive coordinator.
Yeah, that's what I would love.
That'd be sick. Pipe dream would be for him to bring in his defensive coordinator and then the best offensive coordinator we could possibly get off the street.
I think he's going to bring in his own staff, other than his running backs coach.
I would be content with that.
Yeah.
I trust that guy. If he's got Troy, if you win at LSU. If you almost beat Clemson at Clemson when they've been loaded like that, I don't know who the third Power 5 team he played is, but he beat them apparently. So I think Neil Brown will be the next head coach.
I think so too. And I'm not over the moon about it. I like it though. Like I said after Holgorsen left, I was like, I'm done with football because now that means West Virginia and Green Bay are looking for new coaches. I'm like, I'm done. Yep. They'll probably fudge it up with both.
I will say this: if we offer Neil Brown and he turns it down, I don't think I want to watch West Virginia football anymore because it makes me I'd be like, what? Because I don't, I just don't. I am interested to see. I don't think next year will be a lot of candidates available. Had I known that Holgorsen was going to be gone though in the season 2 months ago, I wish Kansas never hired Les Miles because that'd been nice to have Les Miles in Morgantown. But,
I was thinking about this. Outside of Les Miles, I think if we get Brown, that might be the best move of the coaching carousel.
And I think Colorado hit a home run with Mel Tucker. I think Mel Tucker is going to be solid for Colorado. I would have liked to have had him, but like you said, during this whole coaching carousel process, we were the ones that kind of got the short end of the stick because ours left right after the bowl game, and all those other coaches have been hired since then.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's Neil Brown. I think Fickell. The first impression I got with Fickell is because he's from Ohio. He went to Ohio State. Kind of looks down his nose at West Virginia.
Here like that.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, and there's that, and we at least got him in the door for an interview, so that's something. And then we apparently interviewed Brown today. I think that's going to be official by the weekend. I mean, from everything I read, it sounds like it's going to be official. But I like it. I'd be willing to bring him in. My best friend, I told you, my best friend played at Troy. Played for Brown for a year at least, maybe 2, and he really liked him. And he was a defensive guy, and Brown's more of an offensive guy.
Yep. The guy, he's played college football during this millennium, so, I mean, we're almost 20 years into the 2000s, which makes me feel old as hell. But even though I'm still relatively young, as they say, I'll be content with that hire. Yeah. I'm not going to sit there and get my hopes up that he's going to be some long-time Mountaineer coach because I won't. And that's okay. I don't care. The only thing I ask Shane Lyons to do is not make sure if the number one factor is he's got to be a West Virginian guy, then you've already lost. Yep. Which, according to his statement, that's not what he's going to look for. It sounds like he's looking for someone that's going to run a clean program that focuses on winning.
I think his interview with Gibby is just a nod, but apparently he's picking up steam because a lot of donors want him. I don't think he'll give in. If you're not going to give in with Dana, I don't think he'll give in with
Nah, and I don't think that
donors and players.
That's the biggest problem with college football. Is it's one thing to please the fans, but you have to please the donors apparently. And a lot of donors didn't like Holgorsen, with the spring game fiasco and all that, things like that. I think a lot of donors are probably happy he's gone, outside of the old heads, but that's whatever.
The thing with Brown that they say is he's apparently, like, once you get him in a room, he's really charming. So maybe they bring him in and he can charm some of these donors to, start giving back.
Apparently he is a guy that hangs out with the donors. Holgorsen wasn't.
Yeah.
I think Huggins needs a new drinking buddy. I don't know if that guy drinks any, but I hope they factor into that too.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, let's move on. We've been on this enough, and other people want to hear about other things. But college football playoff, New Year's Six bowls, Alabama downs Oklahoma, in a game where, if Oklahoma gets off to a better start,
yeah, because
they hung in there with Alabama, but it was 28-0 at that point.
Yeah. I think Kyler Murray, while it wasn't the greatest game in the world, showed he deserved to win the Heisman. He single-handedly, it felt like that second half was bringing him back with his feet, particularly in the fourth quarter. But once again, it's Alabama-Clemson. Yay. I think Clemson has a great shot to beat him, but I don't know. I don't know who I could pick to win it, because I think both teams are loaded. It's kind of like, I don't know what to say. It's Alabama Clemson again. Woo,
I don't really care, if I'm being honest.
I don't either, because it's like I want something different,
And then let's talk about the Cotton Bowl. I want to get your take on this because I know you hate Notre Dame, but Clemson routes Notre Dame in the Cotton Bowl. Can we stop giving this team a pass? Can we stop taking them seriously?
I think you talk about Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
I think with the way their schedule is, now do I think they were in hindsight a top 4 team? No, but I think no matter what their history is, I think an undefeated Notre Dame team is always going to get in, and I kind of think they should, because they still get good recruits. They still play a solid schedule. It might not be the best. A lot of those opponents they played this year are down. It would help their argument to stay in the playoff undefeated every year if they would get in a freaking conference, but they won't. So, obviously, if they would leave a 12-0 Notre Dame out, you wouldn't hear me complain. But I kind of think it's the people that thought Georgia, if you want to be in so bad, don't get annihilated by LSU. It's one thing to lose to Alabama.
Beat Bama. Don't choke against Bama.
You want to get in so bad? Yeah, Ohio State's better than Notre Dame. Don't get annihilated by Purdue, okay? It's one thing to lose to Michigan, okay? But don't get annihilated by Purdue. I don't – people that think Oklahoma didn't deserve to be in there, I could argue they did. People that think Notre Dame didn't deserve to be in there, I can argue they did.
No, I think the biggest takeaway wasn't Oklahoma and Notre Dame shouldn't have been there. It's just Alabama Clemson is that good – are that good. Are that good.
And that's the thing is like everybody's like Georgia played – okay, well, I hate this hindsight. After we didn't even want to be in the Sugar Bowl. That's how we. Okay, well, it doesn't help your argument when you lay an egg and let Texas.
That's like the damn Bama fans saying, Bama don't care unless it's a championship. No, it's still a massive bowl game.
I thought we should have been. We were a better team than the bowl game we were in, but that's what we got dealt with. But I still wanted us to go down there and win, not well. I didn't care that Greer and them set out because that's their choice. But as a fan, I wanted to see us win. But I'm not going to sit there and be like, well, Syracuse just beat us because we didn't want to be there. No, I'm going to give Syracuse credit for beating the better team on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. So then do you think the committee got it right still by including Notre Dame and Clemson?
I think the committee got it right.
Oklahoma?
I think that was Oklahoma and Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame did what they were supposed to do. They went undefeated. Oklahoma did what they were supposed to do. They won out and won the Big 12.
Essentially went undefeated. I know they lost to Texas, but then they made up for that in the championship game.
And then the people I know at the end of the season, everybody wanted to compare Georgia, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. Those were the three they wanted to compare in regards to that last spot. The way I see it, Georgia had 2 losses. I know one was to Bama, but whatever. Ohio State had one loss, and Oklahoma had one loss. Oklahoma lost to their arch rival, who just beat the hell out of Georgia in a neutral site game by one possession. Ohio State got annihilated by a Purdue team that got killed in their bowl game. So, I mean, that was the only argument I needed. You could say Ohio State played great. Well, Oklahoma did too. Oklahoma took care of business and won out. So I think Oklahoma deserved to be in there. They could have came back and tied Bama. They had a chance. They just started a little bit flat, but
yeah, they shouldn't have deferred the kickoff.
No,
they should have started out on offense. I remember hearing that, and I'm like, "You're going to start on defense?"
Yeah. Well, I remember picking them to beat Alabama. I was like, you know what? I have a feeling Oklahoma's going to beat Alabama. And by the time I actually got home from work, took a shower, and then went to go meet this girl to watch the game, it was 28-7 when we got to Patty's, and I was like, oh. But we watched it, and I watched Oklahoma come back. I'm like, all right, here we go. And then they just couldn't get it done at the end, and it happens. It's Bama. It's hard enough to come back on 28-7 with anybody, much less Alabama.
Yeah, with that defense.
Your name's Cam Newton.
Yeah, I remember watching that game. And I don't really have much else to say. I hate just giving Notre Dame a pass. I really do. I'm tired of it. They're 0-6 in these big bowl games now. They've been embarrassed twice on the national stage now.
Maybe that's their cue of saying you're not as good as you used to be. Logically, I feel like if the committee from a rating standpoint every year could put Alabama, Notre Dame, Texas, and then your pick between Ohio State and Michigan, they would. But so as long as Notre Dame's undefeated, I feel like they could get annihilated in every bowl game. They're always going to be in there because they are Notre Dame and they are God's gift to college football 60, 70 years ago. But, it is what it is. I've learned it. A team like West Virginia has to go undefeated to get in there. And we're not alone. Trust me, we're not alone. I think there's a blue blood bias with the playoff that's more of an issue than 4 teams. If they could fix that, I don't think we would have a problem. This year, it wasn't much of an argument because I do think the 4 teams that got in should have got in. But I think that's college football's biggest problem. It's not an 8-team to 4-team issue. It's a team because I just personally think last year, if any other team that had Alabama's record last year that played the same teams and won and lost the same type of games, they lost to Auburn, I don't think they sniffed the playoff. I think Alabama only got in last year because their name was Alabama.
That's fair.
I mean, sure, they ended up winning the national championship, but the year Ohio State got in and won it over TCU and beat Baylor. A lot of people could argue they weren't better than TCU or Baylor that year, but they got in and ended up winning it. So it hurts my argument of why we let these blue bloods in. But I do think it's sad that, I think a team like UCF has an argument to get in the playoff. Obviously, a lot of people don't agree with me, but I just think that personally, it's a shame that you set up all these other conferences and teams for failure because the committee's basically said, if you're not Alabama or in the SEC or in the Big Ten, we really don't give a shit, or ACC, we really don't give a shit about you, and you'll never win it or compete for a national championship.
Right. No, I agree completely with you. Sorry, my phone was going off. My dad and my brother were in this group text, and they're blowing up my phone about coaching rumors.
Tis the season.
Yeah, I know. I lost my train of thought. No, I agree. I think the biggest problem with college football, like you said, isn't an 8 to 4 team playoff. I wouldn't totally hate an 8-team playoff. I'm not pounding the table for it like some people are. If you're going to give me more games, sure, yeah, I'm all for it. But
yeah, I think you have to think about the players and stuff. Whenever if you want to add 8 teams, that's fine. But it doesn't help the argument of people saying players shouldn't get paid and things like that, because if you keep making money off these games, and then you're saying, hey, you student athlete, hey, we're going to play we're gonna have 2 more extra games on top of these. That's fine, but just compensate them for it, or show them. Or I would be content if they did away with conference championship games to add 2 more games for the playoff.
Yeah,
But
I'd love just to give a round robin, you play the round robin. It can't happen in some conferences, but it can in the Big 12, for instance. Like you play an 11 or not 11, 9-game schedule like it used to be, and then the champion gets, whoever has the best conference record gets the trophy at the end, and that's that. I understand conference championships, and they are fun. I'd love to be a part of one day. I was hoping West Virginia could get there one day or this year, but that didn't happen. I think the biggest problem, though, with college football is just the body of work is different for everybody. You gotta have. Are we going to have a 9-game conference schedule or an 8-game conference schedule?
Because I've always seen where SEC fans in particular are very, very, very vocal about a team like West Virginia, a Big 12 team, a Pac-12 team, any other Power 5 conference except the SEC. They take shots at us for playing Youngstown or somebody in September, but they're always playing Presbyterian or the Citadel.
In November.
In the back end of November before their biggest game of the year.
That is the biggest. I'm trying to keep my voice down. I'm with my parents, but that is horse shit. I'm sorry. They should not be playing that team in November when everyone else is playing conference teams with a chance to lose. The SEC should not be playing a cupcake at the end of the year. That is horse shit.
But then they're allowed to come at us for, playing Youngstown.
No, then the other problem with the SEC is that some teams schedule that one team in the out of conference. Yeah, Bama schedules a Louisville. They schedule someone out of Bama doesn't go outside of Tuscaloosa. They go the neutral site. But that's essentially a home game for them now because Bama fans will travel to those. Since
Saban's been at Bama, they have been to one game across the Mason-Dixon line, and that was at Penn State in 2011. Okay, but by God, they expect every other team to come down to either Tuscaloosa or Georgia at the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. To every neutral site game Bama gets at the beginning of the year is essentially a home game for them.
Yep.
Well, it all started when they played Virginia Tech back in 2009. It's been, and they have had and I get it, they've won a bunch of titles, so they deserve to have a little bit of whatever. But Bama's like, we're so good, but yet they refuse to go play up north. They refuse to go play out west.
Yep.
Unless it's in a bowl game.
Yep.
Which they don't play bowl games up north for Bama standards because those are all the shitty bowls. So.
No, and I'm not trying to bash Bama. I'm just giving that as an example. Yeah. And the rest of the SEC is the same way. They schedule one opponent in the out of conference where you're like, hey, we scheduled, whatever.
Yeah.
And then, the rest of the schedule is Fresno State and Conference USA and then some cupcake in November. It's bullshit. Where the Big 12 is trying to get into the playoff. And a team like West Virginia, like us, we have to schedule Tennessee and NC State one year. Then this year, for instance, we got to schedule Missouri and NC State. The next year, it's Maryland and Florida State. We actually schedule 2 Power 5s. We're not the only ones that do it. Texas does it too.
And not to change the subject, does Holgorsen leave if we beat NC State this year?
I was thinking that today, honestly.
Because,
let's pretend we win that game. And we sneak out a win against Oklahoma State or Oklahoma. That's 10-2. I think he stays, honestly.
And then honestly, if our record was the way, disregard the bowl game for 1 second. If our record at the end of the regular season was the way it was with beating NC State, that makes it 9-3. Okay, so who's to say we don't have a couple guys play in the bowl game or get up for the bowl game?
Maybe we sneak into a New Year's Six bowl.
Yeah, a lot. I think that's a factor, and I was more worried about at the time it coming back and biting us for the playoff. But
I didn't care about that.
Honestly, I don't know. Part of me wonders if we go down to Raleigh and kick the shit out of NC State, that Holgorsen might still be our head coach, because that could have changed a lot of how the season went.
Yeah, but anyway, we're all over the place with this. But another poll question. Which team do you think will win the national championship?
My heart says Clemson, but my head says Bama. It's such a toss-up. I don't know. I think it's going to be a great game, just like their past couple games with Deshaun Watson. No, I'm not including last year. I'm talking about the national championship games they played against each other, not the Kelly Bryant game of last year. Yeah, it'll be a good game. Trevor Lawrence is the truth. He'd be the
By the
number
way,
one
I saw
quarterback.
some ridiculous thing about this guy saying Trevor Lawrence should now sit out the next 2 years and prepare for the NFL draft.
I think that was a
I was
dig
like,
at Will Green. There's been so many reporters and
I
writers.
think he was serious. I'm honest. Honestly, I think he was serious, and I was like, when does this end? Why even bother playing college football? Why just go straight from high school?
Clowney took out that insurance policy.
Yeah.
And then one reason is because players are getting bigger, faster, stronger, and the more and more people with technology and training with sports and seeing how it is, a gateway to money, it's the same way with basketball. Eventually you're going to have a recruit. I mean, Fournette was one of them coming out of high school. Everybody's like, oh, this dude's going to. Eventually, you're going to have a guy that's
different
so
for basketball. I mean, football, you gotta get in the right
and that's the thing.
Physical
Football,
shape. Basketball's not really like that. Not to say you shouldn't be big but you can. Go ahead.
I don't think an 18 or 19-year-old has any business playing in the NFL.
No.
But the thing is like the way the NFL keeps making these rules to tailor towards quarterback safety. There's going to be a guy. It might be Trevor Lawrence that next year could win the damn Heisman and national championship and say, look, I'm with the if a guy like Trevor Lawrence has breaks every type of passing efficiency record next year, passing yards, whatever, touchdowns, whatever, if he's got stats and all these accolades and he's that good, he could try to say, you know what, I'm sitting out the 2020 season because I'm going number one overall. A lot of people thought Andrew Luck would have been the number one pick over Cam Newton if he could have came out that year, which he could have, I guess, but he didn't.
I saw something. This was, again, way off topic, but it was years ago, and it was, what if Andrew Luck, you really think about it, what if Andrew Luck had come out that year? Panthers would have drafted him. Denver takes Cam Newton. Peyton Manning goes somewhere else, maybe Seattle. And then Von Miller goes somewhere else. The next year, RG3 goes to Indy. Indy now is a train wreck. It's amazing how that domino has fallen,
Crazy how a player choosing to sit out or leave can affect. Because the same thing happened to Sam Bradford. He should have been picked over Matthew Stafford in 2009. And a lot of people don't understand why he came back. And then he got hurt against BYU. He ended up being the number one overall pick in 2010. But if Sam Bradford comes out in 2009 instead of a year later, who takes Stanford or who takes Stafford? Stafford's not a Detroit line. It's crazy how, like you said, dominoes can fall and things can switch over a player choosing to stay or leave.
Yeah, I always found that was interesting. I'm like, oh my gosh, all that stuff happened. So
because that's not even an issue of say this team. It's not like talking about a draft where what if the Chargers took because they're all in the same draft. This is an issue of this guy could have been picked this year. I remember, it's wild. It's wild how that all works out in the end.
Yeah, it is funny. Then one more thing I want to touch up on, and we already kind of talked about it, but was Texas just beating the shit out of Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. I did not see that coming. And this is the poll question: is Texas back? Are they officially back?
When they win a conference championship, I think they'll be back.
I know. I'm willing to call them back already. I saw today one of their wide receivers is staying, Colin Johnson, for a senior year. I'm willing to pick them to be the Big 12 champion next year. And I shouldn't do it because I picked against Oklahoma the last 2 years. And
I know one thing. They might not win the Big 12 next year, but I know one thing. They are going to come up to Morgantown and kick our ass next year. Tom Herman's going to circle us over the Oklahoma game next year in regards to teams he wants, because I know he's itching to kick our ass.
Yeah.
They are so mad about this and us beating them like that. They are going to annihilate us next year in Morgantown.
Yeah.
We might have a great season outside of that for all I know, but that's one L I'm chalking up 110.
I looked at the schedule, same thing. I was like, okay, Youngstown State, or not Youngstown State, James Madison, we ought to win that. Missouri, maybe a win. NC State at home, we ought to win. Then it was Kansas, and then the fifth game is Texas at home, and I was like, nah, that's an L. I was like, that's an L. Then the next week was Oklahoma. I was like, that's an L. So
and the Bucks, we got to play at Kansas the week before we play Texas, and that's going to be a Les Miles led Kansas team. So I don't know. Les Miles ain't going to sit there and make Kansas some Big 12 title contender every year, but he's going to. You know how he is with his coaching. There's going to be every year he's going to beat one or two teams he shouldn't beat and ruin their season. That's how it's going to be.
I think that's a long-term thing. I say by year 3 he gets that place going.
Yep.
So NFL stuff now. Week 17 recap. Honestly, kind of a boring NFL Week 17. There wasn't a lot of drama outside Pittsburgh, Baltimore, really.
That was funny watching them on the field just sulky because Baker Mayfield threw a pick to Terrell Suggs, and he got up there for that pick. That was funny to watch.
Yeah, but Eagles clinched. I tell you what, watch out for the Eagles, man.
I think so too, because I do think they're going to beat the Bears.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that. I'm not saying I agree with you, but
yeah, Nick Foles, man.
Big Dick Nick. But yeah, Eagles clinched the playoff spot. The Ravens won the AFC North, and then the Colts clinched a playoff spot. Kind of, like I said, kind of an altogether boring week. My biggest takeaway is probably, damn, Green Bay lost 31-0 to Detroit at home.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers left with a concussion, and it was a weird game.
We're both obviously huge Green Bay fans, and I was just like, I thought we had a decent shot of winning. I'm like, okay, go out on a high note, and shoot.
I look at better draft pick now.
Yeah, there's that. So now that the wild card is set, I guess I should say, what wild card team now this is a wild card, so a 5 or 6 seed, do you think is most likely to make a deep run this postseason? Chargers, Colts, Eagles, Seahawks.
Chargers.
I actually agree. I think it's the Chargers.
Chargers or the Seahawks, because I think it's a toss-up between both of them. Because
I don't like the Seahawks away from home. They're not as good away from home.
They're coming on now, though, and who knows? I mean, Russell Wilson is good. Pete Carroll, the Chargers, it's that team. They won't leave for some reason. The whole Legion of Boom's been broken up and everything, and they're still sneaking around. I mean, they're not the same team they were when they won the Super Bowl and was playing in the Super Bowl.
They're focusing that team more around Russell Wilson. I think getting to be more of an offensive team. And
I think this might be the year. I mean, this could be the year for Phillip Rivers. He finally this is the best team I've seen him have since that 06 LaDainian Tomlinson MVP year. I haven't seen a Chargers team this good.
Yeah. No, this is the best Chargers team I've ever seen.
I think that they have a great shot. But the problem is, man, with the AFC in general, they might not look like they usually are, but it's in regards to the Super Bowl run in the AFC, it's just hard for me to say Patriots aren't going to make the Super Bowl just because they always freaking find a way to do it. Maybe this is the year they don't because of the Chiefs and the Chargers. Maybe this is the year that, but damn, as long as Belichick and Brady are there, it's like Belichick's going to scheme for that one game. It might be the AFC Championship game and then get his ass kicked in the Super Bowl, but he's going to scheme around for whether it's in Arrowhead or, wherever.
I will say this.
Through Arrowhead, so.
Do you know the last time a team in the AFC that had home field advantage didn't make the Super Bowl?
I'm going to say when the Houston Texans had it, I think. Did they have it in 2012?
No, that was the Broncos.
Broncos.
Home field advantage in the whole AFC, not just a home game.
I'd say I don't think the Steelers were the number 1 seed that year. I don't know.
When the Ravens won it and Ray Lewis's last year, they were the 4 seed.
Okay,
that was 2012. Every year since then, the number 1 overall seed in the AFC has gone to the Super Bowl. Broncos in 2013, Patriots in 2015, Broncos 2015, Patriots the last 2 years. This year, the Chiefs.
So we haven't had an AFC Super Bowl team since the Ravens that isn't named Broncos or Patriots.
Yes.
Now, it's weird to think about that, but I do think about that, and that's right. I'm like, Patriots win, Broncos win, Patriots win, Patriots lose.
And I will say this in general about the playoffs. There's not really a team I look at, maybe outside the Saints. I'm still not 100% sure about their defense, but it is pretty good. Where I'm like, that's the team. I like that team.
I would love to see the Ravens just because I love Lamar Jackson, and I just want him to stick it to the haters. But that'd be cool to see, but I don't think that happens. I do think in the AFC, it is between the Chargers, Patriots, and the Chiefs.
Yeah,
one of those by a mile. And I personally don't think anybody's beating the Saints in the NFC.
Yeah, I said this in the preseason. I thought the Rams they had a top-heavy roster, and I think it's showing.
Great team on paper.
Yeah.
On paper.
Yeah, on paper. They don't have depth, and I think it's really hurting them at this point in the season.
I think Breeze is truly on a mission since the debacle against Minnesota last year on the last play. I think the Saints had a good shot to win the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, I picked them to win the Super Bowl last year.
I think they're playing for mission. Michael Thomas is a freak.
Yeah.
Physically, he's
and I
one
know
of the best.
That everyone loves New England, but they don't have anything offensively that makes me think that they're good enough. But other than Brady, just because it's Brady,
it doesn't help. I mean, they had Josh Gordon, but that's
and then he's gone. He was their playmaker. He's gone. They don't run the ball well. They don't protect very well. They're boring offensively. I don't think it's good enough.
I don't think it's good enough myself personally either.
And I don't think they're good enough defensively either. They have no pass rush.
I also always feel like if Belichick's going to take it 1 week at a time, and until they truly fall off the face of the earth and like it's finally over, it's hard for me to say it's over for the Patriots.
That's true.
I hate the Patriots. I can't stand them. Can't stand their fans. I can't stand their quarterback. Can't stand their coach. But they're freaking good historically.
That's fair. So we're going to stay in the NFL, but now we're going to talk about some less happy news. Black Monday. How many teams? 6 teams fired head coaches. Todd Bowles, Marvin Lewis, Adam Gase, Steve Wilkes, Dirk Cotter, Vance Joseph. Yeah, and Vance Joseph. So 6 teams leading to 8 job openings. Our Green Bay Packers have scheduled interviews with Josh McDaniels, Matt LaFleur, and Pete Carmichael, 3 respected offensive minds. But I'll tell you what, Andrew, I like what I'm hearing about Green Bay's chances of getting McDaniels.
I would take that because McDaniels is the only other person I take out of who I actually want that we're not ever going to get. So. Yeah.
Just there's not many names out there.
He's leaving Oklahoma, but I want freaking Lincoln Riley to be Aaron Rodgers as head coach. It'd be sweet to have Lincoln Riley and Aaron Rodgers in the same room together doing stuff, but that's not going to happen. So I'll take.
He just signed an extension. I think. Did you just say that?
I don't know.
No, he did. I saw it last night. He did sign an extension with Oklahoma.
Yeah, I wouldn't leave Oklahoma if I was him either. But
but the guy I really wanted was Bruce Arians.
Yeah.
Not going to work out.
I think he's done with football for sure. It sounds like he's done coaching.
But then the next guy I would want is probably McDaniels. I could really be talked into Adam Gase. Those are my 3 guys right now. I didn't expect Adam Gase to be fired.
I wouldn't mind Adam Gase. I prefer Josh McDaniels. What I hope doesn't happen, I don't think it's going to happen, but I would blow my brains out. Not really. I wouldn't actually do that, but I feel like we'd live in a parallel universe next year if Mike Tomlin finds his way over to Green Bay and Mike McCarthy finds his way over to Pittsburgh. How weird would that be? Because somebody thinks that could possibly happen.
No. I think whoever is this coach is going to stick around for the foreseeable future unless we fall off.
Watch out for Josh McDaniels then because look what he did to the Colts last year.
I know, believe me, I understand. And that's why I am a little hesitant with this. However, he has to have a publicist that says, you cannot do that again.
Yeah. Because I don't know if his mind is saying, if his heart's saying, well, when Belichick hangs it up, I get that Patriots job. But
I genuinely think he had second thoughts about going to Indianapolis just because of Andrew Luck. When you look at that job and you think, oh, man, there's Andrew Luck. They got a high draft pick.
But people didn't know about Andrew Luck's shoulder. How he was going to actually bounce back from it. And he's bounced back exceptionally.
Yes, and I think that worried him a little bit, and then he backed off. He still shouldn't have, basically had the contract signed and then bailed at midnight.
Yeah.
But is what it is. I don't think he'll do that again, and that's our poll question. Where do you think Josh McDaniels will be next season?
Green Bay. I think they pull the trigger and hire him.
I think so, too. I feel pretty good about it.
I think he looks at Aaron Rodgers and he wants that, so...
I think I'm almost certain, unless something's under the table, that's the only team he scheduled an interview with, was Green Bay. He didn't with Cleveland. He didn't with anyone else.
Yep.
And those are the top, in my opinion, the 2 most attractive jobs this coaching carousel. Green Bay and Cleveland.
Yep, I agree.
But yeah, I really like Green Bay's chances. I honestly couldn't even tell you. I also see Gase interviews with the Jets. I think that would be interesting. The Bengals reportedly interviewed Hugh Jackson.
They hire him, so that I'm kind of sad because I'm not sad, but it's I always thought growing up it's going to be 100 years into the future, and we're all dead from nuclear war, and somehow, some way, Marvin Lewis is still going to be head coaching the Cincinnati Bengals, standing there in a war-torn area with just fire all around him, with a clipboard and a Bengals hat on and a headset, just looking around, the last man on earth. The Cincinnati Bengals head coach, Marvin Lewis, is no more, which is weird to think.
It is weird. I mean, that's the only coach I've known. I do think they had someone before him, but I think it was Dick LeBeau. I think I grew up with Dick LeBeau, then it was Marvin Lewis.
Yeah, I remember when Dick LeBeau was at Pittsburgh for so long, but man, I was in the third grade when Marvin Lewis was hired as the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's craziness.
And they've got, one playoff win since that time period?
0.
I know they've made the playoffs.
0-7.
So they actually – I thought they won a wild card game for some reason.
No, they almost beat Pittsburgh.
Should have beat Pittsburgh and Pac-Man.
Should have. Pac-Man. Oh, Pac-Man. Then another name that's being floated around is Vic Fangio. He is being linked to the Buccaneers and the Dolphins. I'd love to see him leave Chicago. He is Chicago's defensive coordinator. I'd love to see him leave.
Yeah, I also have been seeing Brian Kelly's name apparently pop up for a couple of coaching gigs, Tampa in particular. I'd laugh if he went to the NFL because he'd lose his job in 2 years because I don't think he's an NFL head coach. He's such a non-players coach that I don't think he would work out in the NFL because it's not the same NFL it was 20 years ago in regards to personalities. I'd love for him to come to the Giants and tell Odell what to do and things like that because that'd be funny because, Brian Kelly is a dick and he deserves to stay at Notre Dame. I just hate Brian Kelly.
I don't care for Brian Kelly either. I respect him as a coach, but as a person, he's a piece of shit. I don't care for him either. That's about all I had to talk about. I'll recap the last poll questions. Do you think the Packers made the right decision by firing Mike McCarthy? 58% said yes. I was worried with that. That was no for a long time.
Yeah.
Do you think Kareem Hunt will ever play in the NFL again? 59% said yes. What about you? Do you think that?
I don't know. Reuben Foster just got his domestic case dropped, so I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure he'll play in the league because it'll be somebody.
Difference with Reuben Foster is lack of evidence. Apparently, you don't. Yeah, there's evidence with Kareem Hunt.
I think it's funny because somebody will pick him up. I didn't know he was that great of a. He was talented, but I also thought the system he was in helped his stats a little bit his rookie and sophomore year. But yeah, somebody will pick him up.
By the time I think I saw by the time his suspension is up after next season, he'll be 25. That's still prime time for a running back.
Yeah.
Do you think the playoff committee got it right with Bama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma? 86% said yes. Do you think the New York Mets will trade Noah Syndergaard? 90% said no. Which has been the most impressive acquisition in the MLB offseason so far? 57% said Paul Goldschmidt to the St. Louis Cardinals. I know you're not a baseball guy, Andrew, but
go Tribe.
Go Tribe. They're falling apart.
I got a little bit of baseball knowledge I keep up with, and I do know the big name players and things like that. And I can name players on the Indians. But did
you know either of the players I just mentioned?
Noah Syndergaard?
Yeah.
Yeah, played for the his name's been floated around. The problem is, I don't know if you're a Mets fan. I've come to learn paying attention to the baseball that I do. Apparently, the Mets, I'd compare them to one of the worst ran organizations, I guess, in professional sports in regards to ownership. I guess are the Mets and the Knicks the same franchise essentially in regards to their ownership?
It's not the same owner, but it might as well be.
Yeah, I know they're not the same owner, but in regards to how the business is ran, because it seems like a shit show with all that talent the Mets have had. Because didn't they have Matt Harvey, Syndergaard?
Yeah, they had Harvey, and then Harvey had Tommy John, and just never could get right. He had problems, I think, off the field. But
Well, from what I've learned, a guy like Matt Harvey can't really last in a place like New York City isn't good for him.
Yeah.
And regard his extracurricular.
Of course,
activities.
now he's going out to to LA, so we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, so now we'll get into the wild card picks for this weekend. Man, James, that's my co-host. Andrew, if I'm being honest, I'm kind of 50-50 on all four of these matchups. I don't know about you.
Well, I do think the Texans are going to beat the Colts.
We'll start with that. That's my first one is Colts at the Texans. As of now, Texans are a 1.5 point favorite.
I do like the Texans in that one. That'd be my lock, actually. I think Indianapolis' little nice run is over with. It will be a good game, I think, but I like Texans' talent over the Colts' talent in regards to offense and defense.
Golly. I really want to take the Colts, but they're not that good on the road. They haven't been on the road. They haven't been that great on the road this year. And they did just beat the Texans in Houston. I don't know. First year coach in the playoffs. I usually try not to pick those. Bill O'Brien has at least been there. The Texans have at least been there. Home field. And I don't think Indianapolis' pass rush can expose Houston's average offensive line, below average offensive line. I'll go Texans as well. I say about like a field goal.
Yeah. I think it'll be a close game, but I would lock the Texans in to win that game.
And then the other matchup on Saturday is Seahawks at the Cowboys. Cowboys a 2-point favorite.
Toss-up. I think either one could win it. Cowboys could notoriously Cowboys that game and lose to Russell Wilson. I'm totally going to root for the Seahawks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's not even a question.
I don't want to see the Cowboys win because I don't want to hear "beat 'em boys." We going to the Super Bowl.
I thought it was great when.
I love Dak Prescott, but hey, I kind of want them to win too because pay him. Because I love Dak Prescott. I loved him at Mississippi State, but as a Cowboy hater, I want them to pay that man and make him.
They have no choice. They have to pay him now.
I want them to pay Jason Garrett, and please extend Jason Garrett.
They have no choice. They have to.
Please, because I ain't never worried about the Cowboys as a Packers fan. As long as Aaron Rodgers is playing quarterback for the Packers, I'll never ever worry about running into the Dallas Cowboys in the postseason ever.
So you're taking the Seahawks?
Seahawks and Texans.
Okay. By the way, I was starting to say it, but I thought it was hilarious when Chaz texted us and said, or tweeted us and said, "You're more than happy to cheer for my Cowboys."
Oh yeah, I thought that was funny too. Yeah.
And I responded, "I'd rather die 1,000 deaths before I cheer for the Cowboys in the postseason."
Yeah, that's about right.
Even honestly, if they played the Vikings or the Bears, I think I'd cheer for the Vikings or Bears.
I've told people that as much as I hate the Bears and Vikings, at least they actually their fans are a little bit more respectful compared to the Cowboys. Yeah. I truly can't stand the Dallas Cowboys. I think I hate the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah,
like you said, at least with the Bears, there's kind of a mutual respect. Yeah. The Vikings fans are hilarious because they've never won anything, and they're kind of like WVU. They think they're really good.
Yeah,
but they've never really done anything.
The Minnesota Vikings are the Mountaineers of the NFL.
They really are. But anyway, back to my pick. Seahawks at Cowboys. I'm going to go Cowboys. I don't like it, but I don't like the Seahawks on the road. They're another team that does not play well on the road. And Dallas, great defense at home. I'm going to take Dallas. I'm not confident in it. I say by another field goal. I think these are going to be some really close games this week.
Yeah.
First matchup on Sunday, Chargers at the Ravens. Ravens are actually a 2.5 point favorite.
I like the Ravens could very well win that game. It's at home, but I do like the Chargers. I know the Ravens went in there and beat them in LA a few weeks ago, but I like the Chargers in that one. I'm
going to go Chargers as well. Rookie quarterback at home for the Ravens. I don't know what to expect. He's been fine. Lamar Jackson's been fine. It's not really an issue with him, but playoff time is usually better quarterback wins most of the time. Chargers have the better quarterback.
I agree.
And I think they're going to be motivated after letting the Ravens run over them.
Beat them
in LA a few weeks ago. And then last game, Eagles at the Bears. Bears a 6 point favorite.
I like Nick Foles over Trubisky. Trubisky might be good, but it's his first playoff game. And the Bears, I think, are great. They're a good team, but I like the Eagles. The Eagles have a lot of I don't want to say momentum because I kind of don't really believe in that in sports. But I do think they have they're hyped up. I think they have a lot of confidence.
They're hot.
I think they have a lot of confidence. I can't wait until they trade Carson Wentz in the offseason because that's going to be hilarious.
They're not going to do that. Absolutely not.
If Nick Foles wins the Super Bowl, I don't know how. Nick Foles, man, he is a very, very religious man, so I feel like
I'll say this: if he wins another Super Bowl, I'll buy a Nick Foles jersey.
Yeah, I'm not even an Eagles fan. I'll buy a Nick Foles jersey.
Absolutely.
Nick Foles another Super Bowl.
But so you're going Eagles.
I'm going with the Eagles.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm doing this just because I hate the Bears. I'm going Eagles as well, but I think I got some good logic with it. They're red hot.
And this time of year, as we learned as Packers fans, it's who's hottest.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl because the defense was playing well and he was red hot. I mean, and that's what's going on with the Eagles right now. Their defense is playing well. Nick Foles is red hot. They got the offensive line that can stop the Bears' pass rush. I'm going to go Eagles. I'm not confident in it. I think it's going to be a really close game. Yep. But I say Eagles by like another field goal. I think these are all going to be around a field goal within a touchdown game. I don't see a blowout here.
I think that's easily going to be a 13 to 10, 14 to 17 at max type game.
I can see that.
A defensive struggle if you ever seen one in a playoff game.
I could 100% see that. Well, that's everything I got, my man. I appreciate you coming on. Final thoughts time. We could talk more about WVU, but I think we got our points out of the way.
We both miss Holgorsen, and we both wish him the best.
I do miss Holgorsen. I do wish him the best. I won't be. I'd be lying if I said I'm not a little bitter.
I'm a little bitter, but not towards him, just towards our fan base that wanted him gone. I'm not even bitter towards the administration. I'm just bitter at the people that are happy he's gone because I don't think they really – I mean, maybe they do. Maybe they'll be right and we'll hire somebody else who's better than Holgorsen.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm fine with being proven wrong.
But I don't want to hear from anyone that was anti-Holgorsen. This is the last thing I'll say. 5 years from now, I'll say, I miss Holgorsen if we're in a worse situation then because I'll be like, we had him and you didn't want him.
No, I don't want to hear it next year if we have a bad year with whoever we bring in. Likely going to be Neil Brown. If we go 5-7, like fire Neil Brown. No. This is what you guys wanted.
You asked for this. You asked for this as the fans that wanted him gone. Because you can't do shit overnight. Even I think Nick Saban went 7-6 his first year at Bama, I think. So, it's not an overnight thing. If Nick Saban can't do it overnight, Neil Brown's not going to do it overnight.
Yeah. Yeah, I got nothing, man. I appreciate you coming on at the last minute.
I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Go Pack Go, and hail WV. Let's see if we can find ourselves a coaching candidate this weekend.
All right. That sounds good.
Yep. Take care.
Very pro-petty.
Take care, my man.
All right. You too, man.